A few days ago, I had the opportunity to ask you a question about the prospects of the Ukrainian settlement, and you said something very important, which caused a great resonance and is now being widely discussed. Since there is a decree by Zelensky prohibiting negotiations with Russia, if we assume that such negotiations are taking place, it means they would be illegitimate, in other words, illegal. This statement caused a great resonance. The next day, Zelensky was already making excuses. He said that he hadn't banned negotiations for everyone. He allegedly left such a possibility for himself. He explained that he issued this decree under conditions when Russian troops were stationed near Kyiv, justifying it by the need to combat separatism and to prevent possible shadow negotiations through various channels with Russia. He concluded his speech by saying, "I am the leader of negotiations, and I have forbidden negotiations for everyone else." What do you think about such a reaction?
Negotiations, in fact, began immediately after the start of the special military operation. Initially, we told the Ukrainian leadership, the people in the LPR and DPR do not want to be part of Ukraine. Leave from there, and that's it. Everything will be over. No military actions, no war. But nevertheless, negotiations were immediately agreed upon. This was still at the end of February 2022. Then contacts and meetings started in Belarus, and later negotiations moved to Istanbul. What happened there? Around late March, we received a document from Kyiv, by the way, signed by the head of Ukraine's negotiating team, Mr. Arahamia. These Ukrainian proposals, I want to emphasize this, are very important, as they formed the basis of the draft peace treaty developed in Istanbul. This took place on April 15th. But before that, some European leaders told me in phone conversations that Ukraine could not sign a peace treaty. As one of my colleagues put it, I already mentioned this before and even named him, with a gun to the head. Fine. What needed to be done? The troops had to be withdrawn from Kyiv. For us, it was clear in principle that deception was quite possible. Russia had been deceived for decades, told one thing, and something completely different was done. Nevertheless, based on considerations of preventing bloodshed and a serious war, we agreed. At the end of March, we began withdrawing troops from Kyiv in two directions, in two columns. By April 4th, the withdrawal was complete. Some troops left through Belarus, while others went directly to Russian territory. Thus, the withdrawal was completed on April 4th. And the document we agreed upon in Istanbul was finalized on April 15th. When Russian troops were no longer near Kyiv. On practically the same day, although there were some contentious issues that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and several other government bodies pointed out, I agreed that we were ready to implement this document. In the evening of April 15th or 16th, we informed Kyiv that we were ready to sign the document, as there was practically nothing left to revise. The only remaining issue was that the Ukrainian side proposed to resolve it at a personal meeting between the two presidents. I agreed to that as well. But suddenly, We received information from Kyiv that they needed to consult with their allies and were taking a one-week pause. Well, they consulted. As we know, then UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson arrived, presumably at the behest of the US administration, led by Mr. Biden, and persuaded the Ukrainians to continue the war. In fact, no one even hid this. Ukrainian officials themselves, quite high-ranking ones, later openly admitted it publicly. The UK leadership did not hide it either. They openly stated that they rejected this agreement and decided to continue the war. To be honest, we immediately received a signal. We were told at the time, "Now we will fight to the last Ukrainian. That's it. Either we defeat you, or you defeat us. In any case, we will fight." They decided not to sign the peace agreements. But I repeat once again, on April 4th, 2022, Russian troops were no longer near Kyiv, and the agreements were fully finalized on April 15th. The decree banning negotiations was signed at the end of September and came into force on October 4th. That is, 6 months after the peace agreement was agreed upon. So, to say that the ban on negotiations was introduced when Russian troops were near Kyiv is absolutely incorrect. Trying to mislead their own society and the international community on such serious matters is, to say the least, inappropriate. But this once again highlights who we are dealing with.
If Zelensky says that negotiations can be held with him, does that mean they actually can? What is your view on this?
You can negotiate with anyone. However, due to his illegitimacy, he has no right to sign anything. If he wants to participate in the negotiations, I will appoint people who will conduct these negotiations. That's fine, but the issue of finalizing and signing documents is a very serious matter that must guarantee the security of both Ukraine and Russia for a long-term historical perspective. There cannot be a single mistake, not a single flaw. Everything must be polished to perfection. But according to the Constitution of Ukraine, even under martial law, the President of Ukraine does not have the right to extend his powers. The only authority that has the right to extend powers is the representative body, the Rada, the country's parliament. The President has a 5-year term, no more. After that, his powers are transferred to the chairman of the Rada. However, if there is a desire to negotiate and find a compromise solution, let anyone conduct these negotiations. We will, of course, strive for what suits us and aligns with our interests. As for signing documents, everything must be legally confirmed, and lawyers must verify the legitimacy of those authorized by the Ukrainian state to sign these agreements.
And they must cancel the decree banning negotiations, right?
Well, yes. If we start negotiations now, they will be illegitimate. There is a problem here that I haven't mentioned before, but I will now. When the current head of the regime, let's call him that, signed this decree, he was a legitimate president, relatively speaking. But now he can no longer cancel it because he is illegitimate. That's the catch. That's the trap. Do you understand? But in principle, if they want to resolve this, there is a legal way. Let the chairman of the Rada do it in accordance with the Constitution. If there is a desire, any legal issue can be resolved. But so far, we just don't see any such desire.